Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather. I've been so sick for about 2.5 weeks between COVID and a sinus infection. So if I sound weird today, that's why. We just have to move past it because today's video is my most anticipated books of 2024 as of right now. For right now, these are the ones that have caught my attention to the point that I've written them down in my 2024 reading journal, which I just have to show y'all because this is the most me thing. I'm gonna give y'all about 5 seconds to catch the error. Have you seen it yet? Okay, because these are apparently my most anticipated reads of 2024. So let's talk about what they are. I've got them all pulled up on my little cute iPad mini. And so if you see me reading from something, that's gonna be this, because I want to read you the synopses of most of these books. If it's a sequel, I'm not gonna read it because I don't wanna spoil anything for you or for me, but let's just jump in. Let's start in January. So first up, in January, on the 23rd, we have got The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels. Now, I have not read anything by this author, Janice Hallett, but I have heard really, really good things, especially since I like the Thursday Murder Club. I would like to get to this author's backlist, but this book just sounds so good. Quick trigger warning, there is going to be talk of suicide in this synopsis, so I'm just giving you a heads up, and you can skip ahead till you see another book title if you just don't want to hear about that. But this book, the synopsis says, everyone knows the mysterious case of the Alperton Angels, the cult that brainwashed a teenage girl into believing her baby was the Antichrist. When the girl came to her senses and called the police, the angels committed suicide and mother and baby disappeared. Now, true crime author Amanda Bailey is looking to revive her career by writing a book on the case. The Alperton baby has turned 18. Finding them will be the true crime scoop of the year. But rival author Oliver Menzies is just as smart, better connected, and also on the baby's trail. As Amanda and Oliver are forced to collaborate, they realize that the truth about the angels is much darker and stranger than they'd imagined, and in pursuit of the story, they risk becoming a part of it. That sounds so good. It sounds like it's gonna be really fast-paced. I'm pretty sure I saw Meg with Books had an arc of it earlier this year, and she ended up really, really enjoying it. So definitely one to watch out for. Next up, also coming out on January 23rd, is The Clinic by Kate Quinn. Now I'm extra excited for this one because Jess with the Sleep When I'm Dead book club asked me to be a co-host for the month of February, and this is the book that we picked. So if you're interested in reading this along with us and hanging out in the live chat with us when we discuss this book, please be on the lookout for that. I will put all of the information down in the description box so that you can just be on the lookout and you can read alongside us. It's going to be a lot of fun. My friend Hope from Hope on the Coast is also going to be a co-host that month, so really, really excited. But this book comes out on January 23rd. It's called The Clinic, and here is what it says. From the critically acclaimed author of Black Widows comes a thriller set in a remote rehab clinic on the Pacific Northwest coast in which the death of a woman inside prompts her sister to enter the clinic as a patient in order to find the truth. Now there is a longer synopsis, but I'm not going to read it because this is one that I think it's just going to be fun to go into blind. I will say the one thing that I'm hoping for this book is that as we're inside this kind of mental rehabilitation clinic, that it handles all of the talk of mental illness and mental health with the sensitivity and with the seriousness that it deserves. If it can do that and promise the plot that it promises, then I'm really, really excited about it. And I cannot wait to read this one alongside Jess and Hope. So yay. All right, I don't even need to pull up a synopsis for this next one that comes out in January 30th. If I'm saying that date and you notice I'm wearing my Sarah J. Maas shirt, I don't think you really need to hear anything else, but just in case, January 30th, we have got Crescent City 3. I am so excited for this book. However, I have not read the second one yet, so I'm not even pulling up a synopsis or a summary for the third one. I'm planning to listen to the second book at the beginning of January so that I can jump into the third one with a fresh mind that remembers all of the things. And I'm just really excited for another Sarah J. Maas book because I finished ACOTAR, I am on my last book of Throne of Glass, and I'm kind of scared to live in a world where I have nothing left to read from her. But nonetheless, she is a master of plot, she is a master of character development. She definitely deserves to be on a platform alongside other prestigious fantasy authors like Brandon Sanderson. In my opinion, yeah, she puts more romance in her books than some of these authors do, but as far as being a master of plot, She 100% deserves her spot up among the greats, so I'm really excited for CC3. Moving on to February, I have another author who is very prolific, and some of his books are on my backlist, but I have not gotten to them yet, and that is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is an adult fantasy release, and let me just read you the synopsis because it sounds really good. In D'Artagna's most opulent mansion, a high imperial officer lies dead, killed to all appearances when a tree spontaneously erupted from his body. Even in this canton at the borders of the empire, where contagions abound and the blood of the leviathans works strange magical changes, it's a death at once terrifying and impossible. Called in to investigate this mystery is Anna Delabra, an investigator whose reputation for brilliance is matched only by her eccentricities. At her side is her new assistant, Dionysius Cole. Din is an engraver, magically altered to possess a perfect memory. His job is to observe and report and act as his superior's eyes and ears, quite literally in this case, as among Anna's quirks are her insistence on wearing a blindfold at all times and her refusal to step outside the walls of her home. Din is most perplexed by Anna's ravenous appetite for information and her mind's frenzied leaps, not to mention her cheerful disregard for propriety and the apparent joy she takes in scandalizing her young counterpart. Yet as the case unfolds and Anna makes one startling deduction after the next, he finds it hard to deny that she is indeed the Empire's greatest detective. As the two close in on a mastermind and uncover a scheme that threatens the safety of the Empire itself, Din realizes he's barely begun to assemble the puzzle that is Anna Delabra and wonders how long he'll be able to keep his own secrets safe from her piercing intellect. Featuring an unforgettable Holmes and Watson-style pairing, a gloriously labyrinthine plot, and a haunting and wholly original fantasy world, The Tainted Cup brilliantly reinvents the classic mystery tale. Guys, that has got so many things in it that just sound like it was written for me. So we've got a fantasy kind of medieval land. We've got basically a Sherlock Holmes Watson style detective coupling. We've got a very eccentric, weird, quirky main character, and like this high stakes mystery. Tell me that does not sound so good. Like all of these I'm looking forward to. That is when I'm planning to pick up on release day. Come on. And that comes out on February the 6th. Next up, also coming out on February the 6th, we have got Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I have read almost all of Ali Hazelwood's STEM romances. I have got Check and Mate ready to read. I think I'm gonna skip over her little novellas just because they don't really seem like they are getting the best reviews, but I am excited about her fantasy debut, Bride. I'm just gonna read the little blurb for this one. A dangerous alliance between a vampire bride and an alpha werewolf becomes a deep love story, deep enough to sink your teeth into in this new paranormal romance from the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Love Theoretically and The Love Hypothesis. So we have a vampire, and we have a werewolf, and it's a romance. Sign me up. I was made aware of this next book when I watched Liv's anticipated releases from Liv's library, and since then I've heard a lot of people talking about it, and when I was looking at Goodreads at their most anticipated books of 2024, this was in the young adult category. So it seems like a lot of people are really excited about this one. So on February the 20th, my brother's birthday, we have A Tempest of Tea. First of all, this cover is really, really pretty. I'm here for like the style of the person, the really soft pastel covers against the black. It just looks really cool. This one I'll read the whole summary for. And I hope I'm getting this author's name correct. Y'all correct me if you know I'm pronouncing it wrong. Just, I'm doing my best, okay? From Hafsa Faisal, New York Times bestselling author of We Hunt the Flame, comes the first book in a hotly anticipated new fantasy duology about an orphan girl and her crew who get tangled in a heist with vampires, perfect for fans of Leigh Bardugo's Six of Crows. On the streets of White Roaring, Artie Casimir is a criminal mastermind and collector of secrets. Her prestigious tea room transforms into an illegal bloodhouse by dark, catering to the vampires feared by society. But when her establishment is threatened, Artie is forced to strike an unlikely deal with an alluring adversary to save it, and she can't do the job alone. Calling upon a band of misfits, Artie formulates a plan to infiltrate the dark and glittering vampire society known as the Aetherium. But not every member of her crew is on her side, and as the truth behind the heist unfolds, Artie finds herself in the midst of a conspiracy that will threaten the world as she knows it. Dark, action-packed, and swoon-worthy. So it sounds kind of historical. It sounds kind of like we got the Ocean's 11 Six of Crows heist going on, but this like vampire tea room also sounds really, really intriguing. So I, for one, am very excited to pick this one up. Moving on to March, we have got Murder Road by Simone St. James. I've only picked up one of her books, but she's one that I keep meaning to get to like the rest of her backlist because I loved the Sundown Motel when I read it a couple summers ago. But Murder Road, really cool cover, first of all, blurbed by Riley Sager, and the just little short blurb of this one says, a young couple find themselves haunted by a string of gruesome murders committed along an old deserted road in this terrifying new novel. Moving on to April, we have another one I am really excited about from Leigh Bardugo. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. Let me get a sip of my coffee real quick. So we have another, I want to say, adult release from Leigh Bardugo. Guys, don't hate me. Leigh Bardugo's young adult books are not for me. However, Ninth House and Hellbent have been for me. And so I'm really hoping that this one is also adult because it seems like that kind of writing just caters better to my tastes. But this one is called The Familiar. It's another vampire book. I love the cover so much. But this one, it does say adult, okay. This one says, in a shabby house on a shabby street in the new capital of Madrid, Lucia Cotado uses scraps of magic to get through her days of endless toil as a scullion. But when her scheming mistress discovers the lump of a servant cowering in the kitchen is actually hiding a talent for little miracles, she demands Lucia use those gifts to better the family's social position. What begins as simple amusement for the bored nobility takes a perilous turn when Lucia garners the notice of Antonio Perez. Still reeling from the defeat of his armada, the king is desperate for any advantage in the war against England's heretic queen, and Perez will stop at nothing to regain the king's favor. Determined to seize this one chance to better her fortunes, Lucia plunges into a world of seers and alchemists, holy men and hucksters, where the line between magic, science, and fraud is never certain. But as her notoriety grows, so does the danger that her Jewish blood will doom her to the Inquisition's wrath. She will have to use every bit of her wit and will to survive, even if that means enlisting the help of an embittered immortal familiar whose own secrets could prove deadly for both of them. So obviously I need to study some pronunciation. I'm so sorry. I try and do my best with that, but that one just threw me for a loop. However, this one just has a lot going for it. It sounds maybe vampire familiar, maybe historical fiction, alchemy and hidden magic and secrets. Just the setting sounds really, really cool. And I love when we've got magic tied into history. So this one just sounds really fun. I'm very excited for it. Haven't had any romance picks yet, but do not fear because my favorite romance authors are about to come at you strong. First up, coming out on April 23rd, we have got Funny Story by Emily Henry. Everyone is talking about this one, and for good reason. She is by far one of just the masters of the romance slash literary romance genre. She just does it so good. She makes you appreciate being a human, and she makes you appreciate what the experience of love can do for a person, the good and the bad. So I'm just really, really excited to get to this book. So every time I hear this synopsis, I get confused, and I am giving Emily Henry the faith that she deserves to make this plot less confusing as I'm actually reading the book, but hold tight, here we go. Daphne always loved the way her fiancé Peter told their story, how they met on a blustery day, fell in love over an errant hat, and moved back to his lakeside hometown to begin their life together. He really was good at telling it, right up until the moment he realized he was actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra. Which is how Daphne begins her new story. Stranded in a beautiful Waning Bay, Michigan, without friends or family, but with a dream job as a children's librarian that barely pays the bills, and proposing to be roommates with the one person who could possibly understand her predicament, Petra's ex, Miles Nowick. Scruffy and chaotic, with a penchant for taking solace in the sounds of heartbreak love ballads, Miles is exactly the opposite of practical, buttoned-up Daphne, whose coworkers know so little about her that they have a running bet that she's either FBI or in witness protection. The roommates mainly avoid one another until one day, while drowning their sorrows, they form a tenuous friendship and a plan. If said plan also involves posting deliberately misleading photos of their summer adventures together, well, who could blame them? But it's all just for show, of course, because there's no way Daphne would actually start her new chapter by falling in love with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex, right? See what I mean? We get a little bit convoluted in there with all the fiance's exes, best friend's exes. Anyway, I'm really excited for this one. Emily Henry does it right. If there's anyone who could take fake dating to the next level. It is Miss Emily Henry. Just hand me the book already. Like, if you need somebody to read and review it early, hi. Just kidding, but not really. Okay. Coming on April 2nd, we also have another really highly anticipated romance pick. And of course, that is Miss Abby Jimenez with her newest book, Just for the Summer. Now guys, let me tell you something about Abby Jimenez. Yours truly still sticks with me. It is a book I think about, if not daily, then at least weekly, because I have never read from a character who is as much like me as her male love interest in that book with his anxiety. And I don't have a diagnosis for anxiety. I'm not medicated for anxiety, but I know that that's something that I need to get checked out. And so I just feel like if she can write a character that is as compelling to me as Jacob was and make it feel that real, then she can take any characters that she wants to write about and build a story around them, and I will be head over heels for it. So this is her new one, Just for the Summer. First of all, I love this multicolored cover. It is gorgeous. It is a work of art, and I'm sure the book will be too. Justin has a curse, and thanks to a Reddit thread, it's now all over the internet. Every woman he dates goes on to find their soulmate the second they break up. When a woman slides into his DMs with the same problem, they come up with a plan. They'll date each other and break up. Their curses will cancel each other's out, and they'll both go on to find the love of their lives. It's a bonkers idea, and it just might work. I'm gonna stop there because that is all that I need to know about this book. Who has not felt like that? Like when you break up and you see your ex go on to just find absolute pure happiness, and then it happens again and you're like, what's wrong with me? I feel like there's going to be a lot of talk about that kind of thing in this book. She just takes these like funny, quirky ideas and plots and builds them into hard-hitting, emotional, beautiful stories that just make you so happy and appreciative to be alive, and I can't wait for it. I found one for May that I haven't heard anybody talk about yet. Are y'all ready? It sounds wild. This one is called The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. This is the same author that wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle and also The Devil in the Dark Water, which I haven't read yet, but it is one that I would like to get to this year. This one sounds crazy. I love this cover because it looks just all happy and bright, but it's about murder and basically the end of the world. Like, I don't know, it just makes me really happy. Outside the island, there is the world destroyed by a fog that swept the planet, killing anyone it touched. On the island, it is idyllic. 122 villagers and 3 scientists living in peaceful harmony. The villagers are content to fish, farm, and feast, to obey their nightly curfew, to do what they're told by the scientists. Until, to the horror of the islanders, one of their beloved scientists is found brutally stabbed to death, and they learn the murder has triggered a lowering of the security system around the island, the only thing that was keeping the fog at bay. If the murder isn't solved within 92 hours, the fog will smother the island and everyone on it. But the security system has always wiped everyone's memories of exactly what happened the night before, which means that someone on the island is a murderer and they don't even know it. The outstanding new high-concept murder mystery from the Sunday Times bestselling and Costa Book award-winning author of The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, an ingenious puzzle, an extraordinary backdrop, an audacious solution. Y'all, it sounds so good. He just takes like the murder mystery genre and turns it on its head, and this time it kind of sounds like we're leaning into a kind of sci-fi dystopian / utopian world that is reliant on these scientists, and one of them dies but nobody remembers what happened that night, and somebody on the island is a killer. So it's like a massively increased in scope and scale locked room mystery, except we're all on this island together. Whew, I just know he's gonna do something crazy that's gonna throw us all on its head. So sign me up for this one too. That one comes out on May 21st. Moving on to June, we have got another book from Lucy Foley coming out on the 18th, and that is The Midnight Feast. This one sounds kind of classic Agatha Christie vibes. Makes me excited. A luxury resort built on top of old secrets in an ancient wood. The founder, the lover, the mystery guest, the kitchen help, the detective. All have an agenda, all have a past, but not everyone will survive. Also coming out in June, we have got another book by romance queen Ashley Poston. And I'm also why do I keep saying I'm very excited for this one? If I put them on my list, I'm excited about them, you know. So I think a lot of people have been talking about this one, so I'm not going to spend too much time reading through the entire synopsis, but basically we have got a literature professor who loves romance stories and goes on a trip, and instead of being where she's supposed to be at the trip, she actually wakes up inside like this quirky, charming little romance town. And I think it's gonna kind of play with romance tropes and turn them on their head, because we now have an actual real life person who appreciates romance tropes living out a romance book. And I don't wanna know much more. I trust Ashley Poston with my life. I loved The Dead Romantics. I loved The 7-Year Slip. So give me another little quirky romance with a little bit of magical realism thrown in, and I'm gonna eat it up. I have nothing down for July. If you know any July picks that are coming out that sound like they would be up my alley, please leave them in the comments. But coming in August, we have one that just like speaks to my Shakespeare loving, gothic leaning actor heart, and that is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reed. And this comes out on August the 6th. I am an actor. I have been trained in Shakespeare. I have performed scenes from Macbeth, although I've never gotten to be Lady Macbeth. I'm always one of the witches, double toil and trouble, you know? But I am so excited about a book from Lady Macbeth's perspective. I haven't read A Study in Drowning yet. I have it on my TBR cart over there. It's gonna be one of my first reads of 2023, but based on what everybody says, I am pretty sure that's gonna be a 5-star book. And if so, it makes me even more excited for Lady Macbeth. But let me read you what it says. I don't have much yet, because obviously this release is still pretty far away, but it says, "Fair is foul and foul is fair." The stunning new novel from Sunday Times bestselling author Ava Reed, which reimagines Shakespeare's play and gives Lady Macbeth a voice, a past, and a power that transforms the story men have written for her. Perfect for fans of Circe and Wolf Hall. So I love that we're taking a little bit more of a feminist spin on Lady Macbeth, and come on, August. And there's 2 releases that are both coming out on September 10th that I've got my eye on. The first one is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by Mr. TJ Klune himself. And this is actually the sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea, which makes me a little bit skeptical, because that book was so just complete, you know? And so I'm worried that adding on to it might, I don't even want to say ruin it, but I'm worried that it might affect my love for the original if I don't love the sequel as much. So I'm crossing my fingers that he does his story justice, which, you know, let's have faith in authors. So I'm going in with hopes, but we'll just say that they're not like the highest hopes, because I don't want to be disappointed. Also coming out on September 10th is another book by Rachel Harrison. Now, I have read Cackle and I've read Black Sheep. I loved Cackle. I liked Black Sheep with a caveat of it made me uncomfortable, but I still liked the story, if that makes sense. So this is actually, I believe, another vampire story. So vampires really are having quite a resurgence. There is no cover picture for this one yet, and she only announced it, I think, last week. But to read the synopsis for you, a woman must learn to take life by the throat after a night out leads to irrevocable changes in this juicy, thrilling novel from the USA best-selling author of Such Sharp Teeth and Black Sheep. Sloane Parker is dreading her birthday. She doesn't need a reminder that she's getting older or that she's feeling indifferent about her own life. Her husband surprises her with a birthday weekend getaway, not with him, but with Sloane's longtime best friend, troublemaker extraordinaire Naomi. Sloane anticipates a weekend of wine tastings and cozy robes and strategic avoidance of issues she'd rather not confront, like her husband's repeated infidelity. But when they arrive at their rental cottage, it becomes clear Naomi has something else in mind. She wants Sloane to stop letting things happen to her, for Sloane to really live. So Naomi orchestrates a wild night out with a group of mysterious strangers, only for it to take a horrifying turn that changes Sloane's and Naomi's lives literally forever. The friends are forced to come to terms with some pretty eternal consequences in this bloody, seductive novel about how it's never too late to find satisfaction, even though it might taste different. Guys, I've got nothing. I got nothing for October or November. But moving on to December, the first book I want to talk about is probably not one that's going to be on anybody's radar. And that is because this is an author that I know personally. She used to live in the Jackson, Mississippi area, and she was a playwright here. Still is a playwright. She writes really, really good plays, but she wrote a young adult science fiction trilogy that I loved and that I will recommend to all of y'all. It just wasn't published through a super big house, and so it didn't get the attention that it totally deserves. If you liked Scythe, if you like sci-fi dystopian anything, I highly recommend the Original Sin series by Beth Kander. She has an adult, I think, romance coming out, and I've seen 2 different publication dates. One says fall 2024 and one says December 10th, 2024. So fall to winter of 2024. Be on the lookout for this book. She's an amazing writer, and this book just sounds really good. It's called I Made It Out of Clay by Beth Kander. And it says playwright, and this is not on Goodreads. I found this on her website, bethkander.com. You can also follow her Instagram. I'm really excited about this one. Just listen to the comp titles. Playwright and children's book author Beth Kander's I Made It Out of Clay, pitched for readers of remarkably bright creatures and dead romantics, following a single Jewish woman who, in a drunken panic days before her sister's wedding, creates a golem, a protector like in her, I hope I'm not mispronouncing this word, Babes, stories to solve all her problems, only to discover he might unearth the greatest fear she's ever faced. All you had to tell me was that she has to create a golem to be her wedding date, and that it is comped to remarkably bright creatures and the dead romantics. Y'all know that I am in fact a Brandon Sanderson girly. I'm still working on his backlist, but of the 2 series that I love the most, we've got Mistborn and we've got the Stormlight Archive. Yes, I have read all 4 of the first books. I have not read the novellas. Am I a fake fan? I hope not. Anyway, book 5, the end of the first arc of Stormlight, is coming out in December the 6th to be exact, and it is called The Stormlight Archive, Wind and Truth. Oh, I don't even know that I want to read anything about this book before it comes out, but what I am going to need to do is watch a recap of every single one of the Stormlight Archive books. Y'all, those are 1,000 plus page books every time a new one comes out, and while I love them, I love the characters, I love Kaladin and Shallan specifically, my brain cannot hold that much information for that much of a time between books, and I don't know that I'm going to have time to do a reread of all 4, so I need to find somebody who does really, really good recaps of the Stormlight Archive. But book 5 comes out in December. It'll either be my last book that I read this year or my first book that I read in 2025, because again, they're 1,000 page books. Are y'all excited about any of the books that I mentioned? If so, which one is your most highly anticipated of 2024? It's really hard to pick, but guys, I'm really looking forward to The Tainted Cup, and that's by an author I haven't read, so I hope my hopes aren't too high, but I can't wait. If y'all want any more bookish content from me, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss another video. Hit the like button, it really helps my channel, and as always, if you will just leave a comment below so that I can talk and hang out with y'all, that would be great, that would be amazing. More than anything, I hope you guys have an amazing Christmas wherever you are, however you celebrate. If you don't celebrate, I hope you have a great end to your year and a happy new year, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.